And of course, if that's so, then the easy thing to do with any alcoholic is call them bipolar and start to medicate them. I think it's important for you, if you're new, to take a hard look at this possibility that you are going on the assumption that you have some kind of a dread bipolar disease, when in fact the real problem is that you're an alcoholic and that you're full of fear, because fear is that force which stands behind depression, stands behind it solidly. So there's a danger there that we will believe that somehow or another we can't survive without this medicine that they give us, when in fact the only thing we really need is to get right with God. Now, of course, it's not up to me or anybody else who's your sponsor or working with you to tell you that whatever you got to do one way or another. That's entirely up to you. You see, there's another fact of life here which we seldom hear about, but it's the truth. Our recovery, each of us individually, our recovery is our own personal obligation. We are responsible for our own recovery. We can't lay it off on anybody else. So it's necessary for us to take a look at these things and to decide for ourselves what we think we ought to do. And if we need some help or advice from people who've been there before, for goodness sakes, we get it. But it's talking about writing a whole chapter on a manic depressive. Now, manic depressive in those days was an identifiable disease, which was the symptoms of which were extreme agitation and mania on the one end of the scale, followed by a deep depression on the other side. And this cycle apparently is normal with all people, but in the psychopathic manic depressive it's exaggerated, so that in the mania phase they're very dangerous. In the depression stage they're dangerous to themselves and dangerous. They could very easily lapse into some kind of a depression from which they would not recover. That's what it used to be. I don't know, this bipolar stuff seems way too facile for me. But anyway, there's something to think about and something to consult with. You might want to consult with a family doctor. You might want to consult with somebody who's been there before you, who's already been through this, and see what their experience was. Going on, then there are types entirely normal in every respect, except in the effect alcohol has upon them. They are often able, intelligent, friendly people. And you know, there are a lot of us around like that. A lot of you folks would fit that category precisely. There isn't, you know, you dig around back there and you can't find all that much mess in your life. You did a lot of stuff really well, but somehow or another, alcohol has you by the throat. One of the things I've known and learned in here is that alcoholics, by and large, are pretty smart. There's a high degree of intelligence and a great deal of intuitive ability with alcoholics. I don't know whether that's necessary, but it seems to be typical. And so sometimes I think we're way too smart for our own good. And we like to try to figure things out rather than follow directions. And sometimes we're better off just following directions and doing what the people before us did. They recovered, now we can recover. And by the way, there is a complete description of these various types of alcoholics and the progression of the disease in the chapter to Wives, beginning on page 108. Okay, all these and many others have one symptom in common. Listen to this: they cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. Can you see the doctor just putting his hands up and saying, I surrender? We've tried everything we know. We've tried hot baths and cold baths. We've tried belladonna poisoning. We've tried conditioning and Pavlovian theory. We've tried psychiatry. We've tried group therapy. We've tried encounter groups. We've tried all this stuff. We've tried psychometrics. We've even called in the acupuncturist and the hypnotist. And once in a while a psychic to try to find some way to help these people, but nothing works. And we give up. What's he say again? The only relief we have to suggest is entire absence. Now this business of absence, you know, is pretty unusual actually. We think of it as being common because we're in AA. But for most people, the idea of having to be totally abstinent just doesn't occur to them. What they're really thinking is, well, you just ought to cut back. I mean, lots of people drink here and there. They have a drink and might leave half one on the table. They get a little tiny buzz and they feel good and they get a little bit garrulous and they tell funny jokes and stuff. We ought to be able to do that too. Why do we overdrink? That was what my one and only wife, thank you God, used to always say that to me, James, why do you overdrink? Well, she sipped on her Manischewitz wine and left half of it in the glass. She used to tell me I was crazy, but she's the one ended up in the nut house. So who was the crazy one in my family? I don't know. So the view, you see, that people have is not one of absence. Now, here's a kind of interesting historical fact. There used to be a movement in the United States back in the 1800s called the temperance movement. And the temperance movement was really a creature of the churches, and they wanted people to slow down. Temperance meant just don't drink so much, just don't get drunk. Never occurred to them that these people who were afflicted, these town drunks, had to quit altogether. Somehow or another it seemed that they should be able to drink just a little bit here and there and kind of enjoy it. And you know, it's a funny thing. You go into many churches today where they're trying to help the alcoholics and addicts in their congregation. They got the same idea. Just cut back. Just don't use so much. Just don't drink quite so much. Well, you can do it. You know, you've got God, you've got whatever. Just ask for help. Just ask for help. I heard a sermon one time. Said, held up a glass of water and said, now, this is the drink you take. And he had his pitcher here. Poured another one. This is the drink you don't take. Hey, wait a while. This is the drink you take. This is the drink you don't take. See how that works? That way you don't get drunk, you have a good time. That makes good sense, doesn't it? And all the congregants go, oh yeah, sure, preacher, that's right. These people didn't have the foggiest idea what goes on with us, did they? Can you imagine? you imagine an alcoholic, he's sitting there, or he or she's sitting there with a jug of martinis. Pour a martini, drink that, pour another one, pour it back in. No, we're not about to do that. Even if we run out of olives, we won't do that. Oh well. So what Dr. Silkworth is saying, what we know to be obvious, but it isn't obvious to the rest of the world. The only answer is abstinence, total abstinence. The plugs in the jug, we're through drinking forever. And so, if it makes you mad that we took away your bottle, hoo-ha, tough. That's the way it is. No more booze. Okay, open your books up please to page 28, XXVII or XXXX. Bottom of the page. We've just discovered that Dr. Silkworth has concluded that the only relief that's possible for a chronic alcoholic is complete abstinence. Going on, he says this immediately precipitates us into a seething cauldron of debate. Much has been written pro and con, but among physicians, the general opinion seems to be that most chronic alcoholics are doomed.